Ever wonder why some photos have a sharp, clear subject with a beautifully blurred background, while others capture every detail in the frame? The answer, my friends, lies in a fundamental concept of photography: aperture. Aperture is the eye of your camera. It's where light enters. More specifically, it's the opening in your camera lens through which light passes. Think of it like the pupil of an eye, expanding and contracting to control the amount of light that reaches the camera's sensor. So why does aperture matter? Well, it's one of the three pillars that determine the exposure of your image, along with shutter speed and ISO. It affects how much of your photo is in focus, a concept known as depth of field. A larger aperture, which is represented by a smaller f number, such as f2, will let in more light. This results in a brighter image with a shallow depth of field, meaning only a small portion of the image will be in sharp focus. This is perfect for portrait photography, where you want to highlight the subject and blur the background. On the other hand, a smaller aperture, represented by a larger f number like f16, will let in less light, resulting in a darker but sharper image with a deep depth of field. This is often used in landscape photography, where the goal is to have as much of the scene in focus as possible. Now, it's important to remember that aperture also affects the exposure of your image. A larger aperture will let in more light, making your image brighter. Conversely, a smaller aperture will make your image darker. So, you'll need to balance your aperture with your shutter speed and ISO to get the perfect exposure. So, to sum it all up, aperture is a fundamental concept in photography that controls the amount of light that enters your camera. It is represented by f numbers, with smaller numbers meaning a larger aperture and larger numbers indicating a smaller one. The aperture you choose will affect both the exposure and depth of field of your image, allowing you to create a variety of effects from a blur to sharp focus. Remember, mastering aperture takes practice, but once you understand it, you'll have a powerful tool in your photography arsenal. So, get out there, experiment with different settings, and see how aperture can transform your photos from good to great. Happy shooting!